Hey everyone, Anne O'Connell with OC Publishing here, and welcome to the author journey. Well, there is some fun times happening here, and it's nice to shift attention. We've had a rough go the last month or so in the publishing business with some funding issues, but let's shift our attention because we are now entering award season here in Atlantic Canada. And so for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about shortlisted books, authors who have been nominated for writing incredible works. And I feel so fortunate today that we have as our guest a triple nominee, not a one, not a two, a triple nominee. Very exciting. And her name is Danica Roache, and she is a member of Glooscap First Nation, and she's a mixed ancestry writer living in Bunamugwadij, which is Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. I practiced that. With her partner, 4 kids, 2 dogs, and a cat. No, 2 cats and a dog. When not writing or chasing after her brood, she can be found reading, making elaborate baked goods, and listening to the same three songs on repeat. I'll have to ask her what those are. Danica's first novel, look how gorgeous is that, The 5 Seasons of Charlie Francis, released in 2025 with Vagrant Press, which is an imprint of Nimbus, has been shortlisted for 3 awards for the upcoming Nova Scotia and Atlantic Book Awards. And I had the pleasure of meeting Danica at the reveal, the shortlist reveal party, and I have a signed copy. So I'm very excited. And I'm so happy to have Danica join me today on the author journey.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Danica. Welcome, welcome. Are you still on cloud 9?
Yeah, it's like a bit weird because as we were leaving, my 8-year-old was like, "Did you win anything?" And I was like, "Well, this isn't when like they just are listing who goes shortlisted." And he was like, "Oh." I feel like the kids immediately are like, "Okay, let's go home and you can make us a snack."
You're right.
Yeah.
But what he doesn't understand is it's also excited to be shortlisted.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You just like, I don't know. Whatever happens after this is nice, but being shortlisted is like incredibly exciting. And to be alongside so many other incredible books is, I just feel very grateful.
Oh, well, and it's an amazing, I really enjoyed the book. And I will say, for all honesty, one of your competitors is an OC Publishing author.
Oh yeah, I
But
saw.
that's okay. I will pray for everybody. So, so let's talk about 5 Seasons of Charlie
Yeah,
Francis. And this is your debut novel. So that's what makes it really exciting for you.
yeah.
And the categories are the Margaret and John Savage First Book Award that you've been shortlisted for, the Dartmouth Book Award, correct?
Yes.
And the Thomas Riddell Atlantic Fiction Book Award. So the Thomas Riddell is like the golden
Yeah.
ring of our award
I
season.
know that was very exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how did it feel when you were notified? What was the first thing that went through your head?
It felt really validating because I spent so long writing this book and writing it in like quiet moments where
Mhm.
like when the kids were napping or whatever, or like holding a kid while I was like nap trapped and not really knowing if it was gonna ever amount to anything, but
Mhm.
just feeling compelled to write it. And then my partner listening to me be like, "Is this terrible?" Like the like up until publication being like, "I think this might be bad," and him like being like, "Oh my god." So it felt nice to know that like essentially a decade's worth of work was
Wow.
well received. It is very heartening.
Wow. And nap trapped. And
Yeah.
as we said in your bio, you have 4 children
Yeah.
and they're aged 4 to 10.
Yes, they're all 2 years apart, roughly.
Oh, wow. That is absolutely incredible. Like, I admire you so much for finding those quiet moments to write. it boggles my mind because I need big old chunks of time before I.
I I don't I just felt like I squeezed it in because I felt like I had to, even though I felt kind of silly because I again didn't know if it was going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
Um yeah.
So let's explore the why. So talk
Mhm.
about, give us just a little synopsis about what the story's about, and then what led you to this need to write it.
Yeah, so it's about a young mixed ancestry Mi'kmaq woman named Charlie who is kind of she's grappling with grief because she's just lost her uncle. She's struggling with unexpected motherhood and her relationships when she finds out that she's pregnant, and she is also dealing with the kind of baked in racism of academia. And this book has taken, I feel it's been a lot of different things over the years. And I don't, I just, it started, I wrote the first chapter in a very different iteration and a very different story
Mm,
in undergrad in a creative writing class, and it was the pig killing scene. But it was more, which is what I submitted when I submitted it to Nimbus. It opened
that was
with the
intense.
pig killing scene, and she was
That was
killing the pig. And Whitney, my editor, was like, I feel like the vibe isn't the same as the rest of the book, so I don't think we should get rid of it, but I think that we need to maybe change it a bit because it might throw people off. Or
right.
and I
And
agree
I
with her.
have to say that the pig killing was to feed a family. It
Yeah,
wasn't just
it wasn't just
random.
like for fun. And she didn't like doing it.
Right.
But yeah, I think I just so that was an undergrad, like before I had any of my kids. And
Mm,
then the novel sat a lot. I had a lot of time away from it after working on it, which I think is really helpful.
mm,
But so when I come up with ideas, the characters are the first thing, and I really care about them. And so I just felt like I had to keep going back to it
mhm.
and revisiting it.
And were you exploring sort of your own history and past as well?
Um, I don't think that Charlie's family is like mine, but I had my first kid when I was in my fourth year of undergrad, so I was
Mhm,
a young mom. Um, my family is also mixed.
mhm.
I spent a lot of time in the area where the book takes place. My grandparents had a cottage seems like too generous a word. My grandmother would be really upset with me, but it's like a shack that didn't have running water in that area, and so I feel very fondly towards um, that part of Nova Scotia, and also I think feel like Charlie, like I always wanted to leave, and then when I did leave before having kids and traveled,
Mhm,
I then felt like I just wanted to go home, and
mhm.
so I thought a lot about that and my relationship to home
Oh,
with writing
home,
the book.
especially not just when you're from Nova Scotia, but also when you have that connection to
Hmm.
the ancestry of our land, to that the attachment to the Mi'kmaq culture as
Yeah.
well. And so was that important to you? Like, why, how was that important in the grand scheme of writing this book?
Yeah, I think that I do feel a deep connection to land and to different spaces in Nova Scotia where my family has history. Like my great grandmother grew up like on a dirt road in the valley, and and then moved to Halifax when she was an adult. My mom always finds Indian pipe. I was gonna try to think of the Mi'kmaq name, but then I couldn't. But Indian pipe on property, and it makes her feel like the ancestors are around. And it just, I think we're
Speaking to her.
constantly thinking about our relationship with the land and seeing, I don't know, ourselves in it.
So it's your mom's side that
Yes,
has the
yeah,
Mi'kmaq ancestry, and
yeah,
in the book you swapped it. So
yeah.
it's
So I don't know what it was. I don't think I even really thought about it in the sense that it wasn't almost a conscious choice. I feel like the characters just when I thought about them, that was the first thing I thought of.
Mhm.
And so there wasn't a conscious decision necessarily to make the father the Mi'kmaq one.
Interesting. And you
Yeah.
talk about the challenges in academia,
Hmm.
which I think that people are still grappling with
Yeah.
now. So I think it's a really important theme that you've focused on. And I was heartbroken for her when there was the group study session,
Mm.
and another girl basically accused her of, being the token Mi'kmaq
Yeah.
student, and that was the only reason that she had been accepted. That must have been hard to write.
Yeah, I think there is sometimes an underlying, and I've had people talk about it around me, but not necessarily about me, because I am like, I recognize that I'm fully white passing. And so
Mhm,
people don't always know that I'm
mhm.
Mi'kmaq. And so sometimes I'm almost led into conversations that maybe wouldn't normally happen, or they
Happen.
happen beside me and they don't realize that I'm like listening. But talking about how she didn't really agree with, I guess like almost like DEI. This was an
Mhm,
undergrad, so like I don't, a long time ago. Uh,
mhm.
but yeah, it's an interest, and then sometimes you kind of internalize that, and you think, okay, well, did I get this thing because they wanted to look diverse? Do you, like, I just, you think about it a lot, or at least I do.
Mhm. And then when those conversations happen, I know we're digressing a little bit, but when those conversations happen, do you make it known? Do you speak, your truth? Do you talk about
So
it?
in undergrad, I think I was pretty timid in general about voicing my opinion. I'm not, I'd like to think that now I would, but I think
Mhm,
then I was not, I don't really like conflict. When in one
mhm.
iteration of this book, because I did the Alistair MacLeod mentorship program, and Stephanie Domet was my mentor, and she read the first draft and she was like, nothing like really happened. Like there's no tension. And I was like, well, yeah, because that's tension is terrible. Um,
But
but
it's
so
real life.
yeah,
I
and so I
love
think
that.
now I would like to think that I would say something, but I also have lived in such an insular world being a stay-at-home mom that I don't really, do you know, like I only participate in my social circle, really. I'm not like
Mhm,
in a job working with other people, or like in academia
mhm.
confront, like, so I feel like I haven't, yeah, I don't know.
So, but that's about to change, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
once your youngest goes off to school, what are your plans?
I am going to do a Master's of English at Dalhousie and study Indigenous literature.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
yeah,
And you know what? We're so fortunate because in the last few years, there's been a lot more focus on that.
yeah,
So you'll have hopefully more resources to tap into,
yeah, I hope so.
including yours. How exciting is
I'll
that?
teach my own
Yay.
book, and that might be too
Yeah.
much.
Well, hopefully it'll be there. So why don't we
Yeah.
take a pause and have you read an excerpt
Okay, sure.
from Five Seasons of Charlie
So I'm going to
Francis?
read a brief passage. I don't know where to hold my book. Where I don't think it's a spoiler, but it's like after Charlie's they've had the funeral for her uncle, and her and Adam, her best friend, uh, they've had a romantic moment, and it's the morning after. I woke up as the sun rose the next morning, my mouth fuzzy and dry. Adam slept naked beside me, his arm draped protectively across my middle. I'd woken up with him next to me for the past few days. It felt normal now, like we'd done this for years. I wanted to wrap myself in the feeling and tear it to bits at the same time. Regret began to fill my lungs. When the tides in the Cobequid Bay went out and left stretches of mudflats, I could walk halfway to the other shore. Sometimes the mud engulfed my feet right up to my ankles and made it hard to move. The longer you stayed stuck, the harder it was to keep going. With Adam's legs entangled with mine, his warm breath tickling my shoulder, I couldn't say what was so wrong with getting stuck. In this bed, I'd gladly be swallowed whole, which was why I had to get up. I quietly dressed and made my way downstairs, slipped on muddy rain boots, and trudged outside to feed the chickens. The early morning sun filtered through the trees, and as light broke through the cool mist, it caught on the frosted grass. As they always did in the cold months, the chickens huddled in their coop and waited for the noise of rustling feed before making an appearance. The wooden fence creaked with cold and age, and as I leaned against it, watching the chickens peck at the frozen earth, As I leaned against it, watching the chickens peck at the frozen earth. One year, Billy decided the chickens needed protection against the cold, so he made us knit small capes for them. I made a mental note to ask Billy if we should make new ones for them before I remembered. In my hazy and half asleep mind, Billy was inside asleep like the rest of my family, but he wasn't. His room was empty, and there was no one to concern themselves with the chickens' higher needs anymore. There is a rickety bridge that crosses over Portapeak River. As kids, Johnny and Adam would jump into the water below. I was always too scared. One year, after weeks of being teased by them, I finally worked up the courage. I threw myself off the bridge and, barreling toward the river, realized I'd jumped all wrong. I ended up belly flopping into the frigid water. This felt a lot like that. The slow dawning of a harsh, irrefutable truth, suspended in midair, knowing it was going to hurt, but unable to do anything about it. Billy's death was a stinging slap of the water on my stomach, which left me floundering and hoping I didn't drown. I dropped the empty feed bucket, leaned forward, and rested my forehead on the topmost rung of the paddock fence. I stared down at my mud-splattered boots. There was still pig blood on the right toe, a persistent reminder of life and death and what gets left behind. A second pair of boots appeared, the toes almost touching mine. I straightened. Adam was on the other side of the fence. Much like that time at the river, Adam was there to pull me to shore. But this time, I couldn't willingly sink into his arms.
Oh, I have to tell you, like this book did bring me to tears. It made me laugh out loud. It's so real and authentic, Danica. Like
You.
I really applaud you. And it's
you.
one of those books that you want to hug. It feels good. You know what I mean?
Goal. I remember writing when I applied to the Alistair MacLeod mentorship program that I wanted it to be like a book that you could just read in a hammock at
Yes.
and relax and just feel good about it and not, I don't know, just, yeah. Read it and feel good at the end.
Yes. And I want to say shout out to those who are watching. And Marianne Ward just commented, what a great excerpt, such beautiful writing. And it really is. And it's a perfect example of the whole book. It's just like a big warm embrace. But you don't shy away from, like you mentioned earlier, that a first draft you avoided the conflict, but you obviously you listened, you heard, and you responded quite amazingly. You know, the love story that isn't a love story and then is a love story, then it isn't and it is so heart-wrenching. Like when she goes back and forth from home back to this, and she's studying. Like, where did you pull from for that?
I honestly don't, because my partner and I we're he's been my only partner. We haven't had a tumultuous relationship. So I don't have a lot of experience to pull from. I think I just thought about, because Charlie in a lot of ways is like me. And so I think picturing myself in that situation, I could kind of imagine how I would react. And I think similarly to Charlie in a lot of ways, wanting to be independent and wanting to do everything on my own and thinking it a character flaw to need help. Yeah.
Right. And then finally realizing you can be strong, independent, and have a loving partner, in a relationship. I want a shout out, to someone else who's joined us, Bruce Bishop, a fellow author and good friend, said, congratulations on your book and the nominations you received, Danica. So one of the things that I noticed as I was reading it, and we talked a little bit about it, backstage, is that the chapters are fairly short. And it's interesting what that does to you sort of subconsciously. So I found I would get to the end of a chapter and, I'd have my bookmark in hand and I'd go, oh, one more. Oh, one more. So this is one of those books that I was up until the very wee hours of the morning because I kept the chapter's only 2 pages. I'm going to do another one. And because the tension and the you think that they're gonna get together and then they don't, and then she gets in her car and she leaves, and you're like, ah.
And my partner was like, "Can't they just get together?" And I was like, "Stephanie Domet said they have to suffer."
Stephanie. Which is amazing. And the relationship, I think another thing that will really resonate with people is like the dual parenting, but
Mm,
in separate homes,
yeah.
and what that does to the parent who doesn't see the child as often or isn't the full-time caregiver. There are so many themes in here that are pretty incredible. So obviously you and Charlie have a lot in common, including the education piece. She's seeking a graduate degree.
Hmm.
So and she struggles with her thesis.
Hmm.
So how did that come into play?
I think, like, so, well, because Charlie uh is kind of headstrong and stubborn, I don't think, again, it's obvious she didn't realize that she could change her thesis, and it kind of parallels being like, oh, I can actually change my life plan. And I think that she in part maybe wouldn't have realized how um colonized her education was when you're just trying to survive and you're not able to fully devote yourself to it because you've got so many things at play. And so if you're just trying to get through it, you're probably not thinking as critically about it. And so that,
Mhm.
I think her thesis struggle kind of plays into that.
I think it was brilliant, and that there's a lot of challenges, and sometimes, even though in academia they say, we want, open thought, and this
Yeah.
is where we explore different ideas, but in actual fact, sometimes those really far out different thoughts aren't met with as much openness as you'd hoped. And one of the challenges when she does figure out what she wants to switch to, I talk a little bit about that. Like there's no faculty member who has worked in so talk about the switch of her thesis.
Yeah, because I think that's probably still a struggle now, but also like at the turn of the cent, like at Y2K, it would have been even worse. worse.
Mm,
And for her, she doesn't really have the luxury of moving elsewhere because now she has a child. So like this is it. And kind of realizing that she doesn't, there aren't a lot of opportunities or like pathways already open for her and having to
hmm
her own. And I think too, it kind of comes up uh, when the professor calls Mi'kmaq people a conquered people, and she doesn't have the like education or background or facts to argue against it in the moment, and she feels really frustrated by that and realizes that in some ways her education has really let her down because she can't stand up for herself or her people, and finds that
hmm
frustrating.
Yeah, but boy, she comes through.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, before we run out of time, you mentioned the Alistair MacLean Mentorship Program,
Yeah.
which is a Writers Federation program. Explain that to our viewers who might not know what that is.
Yeah, so it's an incredible program run through the Writers Federation of Nova Scotia. So I applied. I had a general membership to the Writers Fed, and then there's an application fee. But I think
Mhm,
oftentimes the Writers Fed will waive them if financially that's not feasible for people. They're very
mhm,
understanding. You apply. There was like a questionnaire, and you submit an excerpt. They pick a handful of people and then match you with an already established author who's a member of the Writers Council for the Writers Fed, who they feel kind of matches the genre or vibe of your piece. And then it's the length has varied over the years. When I did it, it was 6 months. And so from
mhm,
like January to June, Stephanie and I passed the manuscript back and forth like multiple times, which I think would cost So for me, it at most I say would cost like $100 between the general membership and the application fee. And to pay
Mhm.
someone to go over your manuscript 2 or 3 times, that would be like 10,000. Like
It'd be a lot of money.
it's
Yeah.
worth so much. Like, and it's like for emerging authors, and they also try to reserve spaces for BIPOC authors, and so
Mhm.
it's such a great program, which is now threatened because of the budget cuts, and has already been shortened in the past because of
Mhm.
funding issues. And so and my book wouldn't be, I truly do not think that my book would have made it anywhere if it wasn't for that program. And I think a lot of Amanda Peters did that program, though she didn't work on the Berry Pickers. Robert, who is also a nominee this year, a double nominee, he did that program the same year I did. And so it's such a great program, and I cannot
That's
speak.
incredible.
Yeah, it's
Oh, that's fantastic. And had I thought we were going to talk about this, I would have brought up the WFNS site, but shout
mhm,
out to Writers Federation of Nova Scotia,
yeah,
an amazing resource for authors here in our province.
yeah,
And there are writers' feds in other provinces. So if you're watching and you're outside of Nova Scotia, make sure you look into that. And
mhm,
Danica very eloquently outline just what an impact that program has
yeah,
made.
it's incredible. Just all of the
Absolutely.
work. I'm on the board of directors right now for the Writers Federation, and I'm about to
Congratulations.
share. Thank you. I'm about to go into my final year next year, but it's just such an incredible organization, and the staff do so much with so little, and they shouldn't
Yep.
have to.
Yep.
But it's just incredible, and I think writing can be so isolating, and the Writers Fed really helps to provide like community and
Mhm.
opportunities, and it's such a great organization.
That's fabulous. Again, a shout out to Writers Fed. So the best place for people to find you, I assume, is on your website.
Yeah,
And
or
there
my
she
oh
is.
yeah,
And what social media are you
it's just
on?
my name, Danica Roache, on Instagram. That's
Oh, okay,
yeah.
on Instagram.
I think I have
And
other
then
ones, but I don't remember my password.
okay, so Instagram it is, or
Yeah.
go right to her website, danicaroach.ca,
Yeah.
and you can find how and what's the best place for people to purchase 5 seasons of Charlie
It's
Francis.
available everywhere. And if your local bookstore doesn't have it, they can order them.
Mhm.
But yeah, anywhere that books are sold, I guess.
And I imagine that probably Open Book Coffee has them. I'm sure Bookmark
Yeah,
has them.
yeah,
King's
they do.
Co-op. They're
Yeah,
going to be everywhere because most bookstores will start to have the shortlisted books
yeah.
available because everybody's eager to. It's like the Oscars here, like for books. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So the nominees, everybody wants to read the nominees because they want to
yeah,
guess who's going to win. We have lots of folks. Oh, Marianne says, thanks for highlighting the Alistair MacLeod Mentorship Program and
yeah.
WFNS. They
I will
deserve
talk
the
about it
kudos.
for I will.
I bet, and for good reason,
Yeah.
right? Um, so that's fantastic. So I know that you're this again. I have a signed copy. I'm very, very lucky. What would you like people who read this book to walk away with?
I think I want people to feel uh, I guess it depends. So I've had other mixed ancestry people say that they feel seen when
Mm,
they read this book and see their own experiences reflected back, because there aren't a lot of books about mixed ancestry people. And so
mhm.
I feel very happy. I hope that mixed ancestry people feel seen. I hope that everyone feels, even though there are hard topics in it, kind of satisfied and comforted by the end. And I kind of sometimes think about it as like comfort food, but not like a bag of Cheetos, but more like a homemade pasta, if that makes sense. If that makes sense.
Yes,
Um,
I love
like you
that.
don't feel bad after you read it. And yeah, I hope I've had non-Indigenous people tell me that they've like learned things, which I kind of
Mhm,
wasn't expecting from the book, but so that's been really lovely to hear. And so I hope that
mhm.
maybe some people learn things, or it challenges their perspectives on histories and who's in charge of telling them.
Oh, I love that. I think that's a really great note to wind up on. And, I think that people need to ask the questions and need to challenge and get into the conversations. So this is a beautiful book. I
Thank
congratulate
you.
you on being shortlisted in the 3 categories,
Thank
and keep writing. I'm,
Yeah, I
glad
have
to hear
another
that.
book coming out
And
in
is it going to be related to this or something totally
no,
different?
the characters, one of the characters is also a Francis, but they're not it's a like contemporary
Okay.
set in a fictitious town. Yeah, also with
Oh,
Vagrant Press.
okay, excellent. Well, congratulations
Yeah.
on another book contract. That's very exciting. And have fun with your writing and have fun with all those boys in your house.
Yeah, it's about to be a busy summer.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. But
Yeah.
you've got this wonderful, vibrant aura
Oh,
about
thank you.
you. And, obviously, that energy is applied in the best way possible. Raising 4 boys. Congratulations on
Thank
all of it. Very excited.
you
And
so
I'll
much.
see you at the awards programs.
Yeah, that'll be
All
exciting.
right. Okay. And thanks so
Update
much. It's
you.
been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. And thank you all for joining us on the author journey today. I'm just so excited. I hope that everybody runs out and picks up 5 seasons of Charlie Francis, and that you're having a great day and you're reading some great books. And we'll just see you next time on the author journey. For now, I'm Anne O'Connell with OC Publishing. Bye for now.